Hello everybody, welcome to my channel.
Karen Carpenter, the angelic voice that defined a generation. Karen Carpenter remains one of the most beloved and tragic figures in the history of popular music. As the voice and drummer of the Carpenters, alongside her brother Richard, she helped shape the sound of the 1970s with a voice so pure, warm, and emotive that it still resonates with listeners today. Behind her heavenly tone, however, was a life marked by quiet struggles and an untimely death that brought awareness to the dangers of eating disorders. Early life and musical beginnings. Karen Anne Carpenter was born on March 2, 1950, in New Haven, Connecticut, and later moved with her family to Downey, California. From an early age, she showed a deep love for music. While her brother Richard excelled as a pianist and arranger, Karen gravitated toward rhythm, first playing the glockenspiel and later mastering the drums. Despite her initial passion for percussion, it was her singing voice that ultimately captured the world's attention. In 1969, the sibling duo signed with A&M Records and released their debut album, offering, later retitled Ticket to Ride. It wasn't until their 1970 breakthrough with the single, They Long to Be Close to You, that the Carpenters became household names. The Carpenters' signature sound. The Carpenters' music stood out for its lush arrangements, emotional sincerity, and Karen's unmistakable contralto voice. Songs such as We've Only Just Begun, Rainy Days and Mondays, Superstar, and Top of the World defined the soft rock and adult contemporary sound of the decade. Karen's voice was often described as intimate and hauntingly beautiful, able to convey both hope and melancholy within a single phrase. Unlike many of her contemporaries, she sang without excess or theatricality. Her power lay in simplicity and emotion. Success and struggles. Behind the glitter of fame, Karen Carpenter faced immense personal challenges. Constant pressure from the music industry and media to maintain a certain image led to her struggle with anorexia nervosa, a disorder that was little understood at the time. Despite her immense talent and professional success, Karen often battled low self-esteem and a sense of isolation. Her health issues began to affect her physically and emotionally. Even as she continued to perform and record, she released a solo album in 1979, produced by Phil Ramone, that showcased a more contemporary sound. However, it was shelved by A&M Records until its posthumous release in 1996. Tragic death and legacy. Karen Carpenter passed away on February 4, 1983, at the age of 32. From heart failure related to complications of anorexia. Her death was a heartbreaking loss to the music world. But it also served as a wake-up call about the dangers of eating disorders and the unrealistic standards often placed on women in the entertainment industry. Her influence endures decades later. Artists such as Madonna, Sheryl Crow, and Adele have cited Karen as an inspiration. The Carpenters' music continues to sell millions of records worldwide, and Karen's voice remains a benchmark for vocal purity and emotional depth. A timeless voice. Karen Carpenter's story is one of both triumph and tragedy, a reminder of the fragile balance between fame and personal well-being. Though her life was brief, her voice lives on as one of the most beautiful instruments in the history of popular music. Every time her recordings play, whether it's the comforting optimism of We've Only Just Begun, or the wistful longing of Yesterday Once More, Karen Carpenter continues to speak to the heart, proving that true artistry never fades with time. The voice of an era. Karen Carpenter's voice is often described as one of the purest and most recognizable in popular music history. Her contralto range, rare among female singers, gave her vocals a warm, velvety quality that stood out in an age dominated by powerful belters and rock icons. What made her singing so distinct was not just her tone, but her phrasing and emotional subtlety. She had an uncanny ability to interpret lyrics with quiet sincerity, transforming simple pop ballads into deeply felt emotional experiences. Listening to Karen sing was like hearing a friend confide their hopes and sorrows. In songs like Rainy Days and Mondays and Goodbye to Love, her delivery carried an aching honesty that connected directly with the listener's soul. Music producer Richard Perry once described her voice as a gift from God, while composer Burt Bacharach, who wrote many of the Carpenters' hits, praised her for making every word feel as if it truly came from her heart. Musical versatility and artistry. Although Karen is best remembered as a vocalist, she was also an accomplished drummer, something often overlooked by the public. In the early years of the Carpenters, she played drums on most of their recordings and during live performances, impressing both fans and fellow musicians with her precise, yet expressive style. Her drumming idols included jazz legends Joe Morello and Buddy Rich, and she often spoke of how being behind the drum kit made her feel most at ease. Her brother Richard Carpenter, the duo's arranger and pianist, played a crucial role in crafting their distinctive sound. Together, they created lush vocal harmonies and layered arrangements that became the hallmark of the Carpenters. Their music blended pop, jazz, and orchestral influences into something both timeless and uniquely their own. Fame and perfectionism. As the Carpenters' popularity soared, so did the demands of fame. Constant touring, television appearances, and recording schedules left little room for rest. Karen, who was naturally shy and reserved, often struggled with the pressures of the spotlight. Her desire for perfection, both in her music and her appearance, grew more intense over time. This pursuit of perfection contributed to the development of her eating disorder. In an era when thinness was becoming an expectation for women in entertainment, Karen began dieting excessively, unaware of the dangers of anorexia nervosa. By the late 1970s, her health had become a major concern. Friends and family tried to intervene, but medical understanding of eating disorders was still in its infancy. The Lost solo album in 1979, Karen sought to explore her individuality by recording a solo album with producer Phil Ramone. The sessions took place in New York City and featured a more contemporary, disco-influenced sound, very different from the Carpenters' signature style. While Karen was proud of the work, A&M Records and her brother Richard felt the album didn't suit her image and decided not to release it. Heartbroken, Karen returned to California. The rejection of her solo project was a devastating blow, yet it also revealed her desire to grow beyond the confines of her established image. The album was finally released in 1996, years after her death, and received positive critical reassessment. Songs like If I Had You and Make Believe It's Your First Time showcased her versatility and hinted at what could have been a promising solo career. Legacy and influence. Karen Carpenter's death in 1983 sent shockwaves through the music industry. It was one of the first times the world had heard the term anorexia nervosa in the context of a celebrity's death. In the years that followed, her story helped raise awareness about eating disorders, encouraging more open discussions and improved medical research. Her influence on modern artists cannot be overstated. Singers from Adele to Christina Aguilera have cited Karen as an inspiration for her emotional honesty and technical control. The Carpenters' songs continue to feature in films, television, and commercials, their melodies still evoking nostalgia for a gentler era of pop music. In 2010, Rolling Stone listed Karen Carpenter among the 100 greatest singers of all time. Countless tributes, documentaries, and biographies have since celebrated her life and artistry. A lasting light. Karen Carpenter's story is one of contrasts. immense success and deep loneliness, beauty and fragility, joy and sorrow. Yet through it all, her voice remains eternal, an instrument of unparalleled grace and humanity. When listeners play Yesterday once more or close to you, they are reminded not only of a golden era of music, but of a woman whose voice could make the world stop and listen, though she left far too soon. Karen Carpenter's spirit lives on in every note she sang, a gentle reminder of the enduring power of music to heal, to comfort, and to transcend time.
Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye.